Well, joining us on the line today is a man whose accolades, accomplishments, and catchphrases are a virtual episode of the two-man power trip by themselves. But when you are the world's greatest wrestler, world's greatest singer, world's greatest entertainer, the chosen one, the king of the mountain, and you've held the NWA Championship 6 times, the WCW World Championship 4 times, the Intercontinental Championship 6 times, you're a former USWA champion, and oh, by the way, you've also founded TNA Wrestling and the polarizing Global Force Wrestling. It's an honor and privilege to talk to again from the illustrious Jarrett Wrestling family. Jeff Jarrett, thank you so much for joining the two-man power trip of wrestling.
Wow, what an intro on the two-man power trip. I appreciate that. But, no, thanks for having me on. And, looking forward to talking Global Force Wrestling. You introduced me as the old Double J intro, the world's greatest. And so it's sort of appropriate as I'm headed to Poughkeepsie, New York. That's the first place that the Double J character persona ever appeared on Monday Night Raw was in Poughkeepsie, and we're headed back there this weekend.
Yes, of course, the iconic Mid-Hudson Civic Center, the site of many Monday Night Raws back in the mid-'90s. But, of course, we're talking about Global Force Wrestling, hitting the Northeast in Poughkeepsie, New York, as well as Rahway, New Jersey, teaming up with Pro Wrestling Syndicate for a couple great shows this coming weekend. And I guess the first place to start is the progression of Global Force Wrestling and how it's grown so much. We just were talking about quickly before we came on the fact that TV tapings have been going on, and the roster is just evolving into this image that you have grown since its inception. But what are your thoughts on how it's grown so far and what you've been able to accomplish in the amount of time since founding Global Force?
You know, we had a meeting earlier this week with some, I'll call them soon-to-be partners in the business world. And the one thing, you know, they as I was discussing and talking about things, they were all nodding their head, and it's a pretty cool little story in that as they were nodding their head, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, yep, we know this, yep, we know this, and they go, Jeff, it's no secret, we've watched every step of the way. And I thought, you know, 15 years ago, or even in 2002 when I founded TNA, the world was not as, I'll call it, as transparent, or, you know, you didn't have Periscope and, you know, all these different things to literally watch us. They've watched Global Force Wrestling and the team we've got, I'll say, in front of the red light, behind the red light. They've watched us grow, and that's sort of the cool thing that you know, in 2014, in April, that was basically the day that we just named the company. And then as the months rolled along and we formed the alliances with different promotions, it's a real step-by-step process. And then the Wrestle Kingdom 9 and bringing JR on board and getting the opportunity to executive produce that and bring that fantastic product for the first time in North American and via flips to the worldwide audience. And then as we launched the Grand Slam Tour and had the tapings, and as we're creating content, you know, just all the step-by-step evolution, it's really cool. And now we're kicking off, you know, our first events in the Northeast and first events of 2016 in the Northeast, and we've got, you know, several co-branded shows already on the books, and we're going to be making announcements and more coming, and then obviously the international agency that we signed on with probably 2 or 3 months ago, and as they are out spreading and showing the world amped, and as we gear that up, and then obviously the $1 million question is the United States U.S. Distribution deal, and what's that going to look like, and as we continue to work on that. So it's really been a step-by-step process, and the fans, we like to call them the amped army, are you know, they're getting on board one at a time. All of our digital numbers continue to increase, so it's exciting, and it's even more exciting when you sit down with the people who are, you know, you think they're going to be brand new partners, but in essence, they've been watching all along, and they're excited to jump on board.
And that's because you have been at the forefront. Basically, you're a daily news piece in the pro wrestling journalist world, because since 1999, you have literally been I got to say, you're the global force behind how to put a wrestling business together. We've seen you put together TNA. Now we're watching you put together Global Force Wrestling, and to see the progression since, like you said, last year, and even when the name was just announced, I think it really took everybody by surprise. But as you add these partners and as you add these other organizations, are you just like, does it get you as somebody who's been in the business forever just to see this talent, this untapped resource, so to speak, of the independent scene? Does it kind of get you going that you're going to give more people the opportunity to, hone their craft on a big stage?
Well, like I'll say, in the day in 2014, as we continue to roll along, and I really made it an effort because I didn't get the opportunity when I was still with TNA to really dive into the independent scene, and we, I got obviously, and it's now with some people in the wrestling journalist world, we both have tongue in cheek and we chuckle at one another, and it's all good and fun about the database that we created. But the database is for real, and it really shows when you really drill it down, and we've got it divided up a couple of ways. You can slice and dice it in countries, in different promotions, all that. But the depth of the independent scene it's unbelievable from where it was, I'll say, 10 years ago. And you can look at, not that NXT is made up of independent wrestlers by any stretch, but when you look at the success of that brand, the standalone brand, and the stars and how that's coming together, and all those opportunities that are given to those guys. Well, it proves in my mind just over and over and over. There's so much room in the marketplace for promotions to offer up something. You can't offer up the same type steak or the same type meal. You got to be a little different. But Lucha Underground, Ring of Honor, NXT, Global Force, yes, I'm very, very excited. And to give guys opportunity because the talent is there. They just need the stage.
Absolutely. And speaking of talent, this weekend you're going to be going up against Pro Wrestling Syndicate, which is quite a big independent company up here in the Northeast. Can you talk about the shows coming up this weekend with GFW against PWS?
Yeah, PWS. We were there, myself and Sanjay, and a couple other Global Force guys. But we were on the card at Pro Wrestling Syndicate, and that's when really the promotion jumped off. And at the end of that night, we'll call them the hometown team, the PWS local fans were on their feet. They were really intense, and they were doing the chant, "This is our house." But it really showed that level of excitement that, okay, Global Force is coming in with Nick Aldis, a champion, Sanjay Dutt, the next-gen champion, Brian Myers, who's been a part of our tapings, the Heavenly Bodies. We're very excited to go head up against the best from PWS, and it's just a really, really good mix, and it's a part of the vision that I've had from day one is that you take global stars and you match them and all levels of different, the talent has the exposure. A guy like Dan Moff, who just needs an opportunity, but he's going to get the opportunity on Saturday night to go against Bobby Roode. That's a match that most people of Pro Wrestling Syndicate, and I'll say most fans of Bobby Roode thought that they would never see, but I can assure you it's going to be a hell of a match.
Absolutely. Definitely looking forward to that. Now, do you enjoy coming up to the Northeast? Because it seems like, obviously it's a big hotbed in wrestling, and it has been for quite some time. Do you enjoy spending some time up here in the Northeast, especially with PWS?
I've always, my first 7 years of my career, I spent it in, the 7-state area of my family's promotion, but then I traveled to Puerto Rico and traveled to Japan and Texas in the early years. But 93 is when I really started wrestling, for the WWF and the Northeast, obviously the hub of at those days, the WWF. And so, yes, the shorter answer is I do love the Madison Square Garden. That crowd is so identifiable with their passion, but it just bleeds over into all the Northeast. I will say this: I certainly like to get on that plane and head back home when the snow hits. So I've been caught in a few blizzards in my day up in the Northeast. A couple of times I got caught in Detroit. A couple of times I got caught in Newark. So it's just part of it. But I'm a Southern boy, so you guys can you can keep that snow.
I definitely feel you on that one. Now, with Global Force, obviously you guys are doing some touring and stuff. Can you just talk about the expansion? I know you guys obviously did some AMP tapings in Las Vegas, but you're planning on going to the UK?
Yes, we got shows there March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We're going to be doing our first show in London, which is obviously, a major market, media market as well as a professional wrestling market. the entire United Kingdom independent scene is red hot. But we're also London's obviously the biggest market there, but we're going into places, quite frankly, that WWE will not go. 2 other towns, Exeter and Coventry, great venues, obviously a great wrestling fan base, and it's something. Again, it's a step-by-step process of really creating brand awareness. That is, I'm a strong believer in that. Our team is a strong believer in that. That things just don't happen overnight. That's delusional thinking that you think you can start up a company and even if you were to get on Fox Network, it still takes time to create brand awareness, and you really got to build it fan by fan, brick by brick. And so being a part of the UK scene, in April, we're going to be a part of the German wrestling scene. Our partner over there, WXW, they run 100 shows a year. And so maybe not that many, maybe 70 or 80, but, it's a consistent, really, really good promotion. Their 2 biggest shows of the year, Oberhausen and Hamburg, are going to be taking place at the end of April. And then we're talking to other promotions in Italy and Scotland and a few others. So we're excited. Just to continue that brand awareness and bring Global Force and the vision and how the execution that we have our shows with the VIP fan experiences, and then very, very diverse with great bell-to-bell action.
Now, obviously, you guys are building a global name and everything else, but within the U.S., I know you guys are actively looking for TV deals. When the TV deals start coming in and you guys start to, focus more on that, will you start doing American pay-per-views and things of that nature?
And when you call it a TV deal, that's almost a passe, because now it's a distribution model that obviously a television is part of that. But in the world of digital, and, not just professional wrestling, any form of entertainment, I don't care if it's the show The Voice or if it's, the NFL. The NFL is doing with Yahoo the deal they did, streaming games. So it's really your distribution model. And so as we roll that out in 2016, that will be step one. The pay-per-view model, I'm not going to say we're never going to do a pay-per-view. That's probably not accurate. But to say that's a priority would be absolutely not true, because just look at the WWE. The traditional pay-per-view model is dead. It's not dying. It's dead. When you can pay $9.99 a month to obviously the industry leader that has over 90% market share, and all of their quote-unquote pay-per-views are in the network model. So the traditional pay-per-view, but I think the second part of your statement was pay-per-views or big events. Yes, big events. We definitely have those things in the works in a big kind of way.
Now, what do you think about the network model? Because obviously you're somebody who was so at the forefront of that weekly pay-per-view model with TNA back in 2002. But what do you think about how a company can succeed off of something so specialty-based like, a web presence, an iPay-per-view, and things like, pertaining to those exclusive run shows?
It's the network is you talk about a visionary. It's and when you have a professional wrestling organization that has a top 5 OTT service in the world, that speaks volumes about our industry. And the good thing, and you can look on Wall Street, that there's a lot of upside to a professional wrestling model, because there are no seasons. When the NFL goes dark or Major League Baseball goes dark, their season's over. The sense of urgency or demand for programming drops. Well, with the WWE, and you look at the success of the NXT brand launched solely off the network, I'll say solely because there are obviously USA mentions, but it's the WWE brand. But as far as consistent programming, it's online. So it just shows you the power of online, and that if you don't have an enormous component digitally when launching a brand, you're basically way behind the curve and almost shooting in the dark. So I'm proud to really look at the WWE network and how successful it's becoming, and it's a growth. I think Wall Street beat them up pretty good a year or so ago because they didn't meet expectations. But as it grows and people can see the vision and the consistency, and as it grows and the quality of programming that continues to be put out, it's great for our industry.
Yeah, and you talk about visionaries, and I'm sorry, but you can't mention visionaries in professional wrestling without mentioning yourself, Jeff Jarrett, because you've done so much to build two organizations from the ground up. You watched a territory grow as you grew in the professional wrestling industry, but as you see the young talent and as you see the next generation of stars, people who now get into the business might only remember you from seeing you with TNA Wrestling. How do you play the mentor role to a young talent just getting into the business?
Well, but any quick words of advice are learn your basics, learn your fundamentals. The old saying, wise man built his house upon a rock. If you really have a foundation that is rock steady, that you know the basics of a match and how it is to go, and if you study, be a student of the game, that will pay dividends. But the other thing that I tell guys getting into this business, that they're the opportunities that you have 100% control of, didn't exist when I broke in. They just, quite frankly, didn't exist. Back in the day and even through the 90s, you wanted to get on TV, Nitro or Raw, and then you'd have, 4 to 6 to 8 to 12 to 15 minutes to control your destiny as far as connecting with the audience. Nowadays, with social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, your own website, you can control all of that, and you can create your fan base. It's how hard you want to work, how much you want to connect to your audience. And again, once you get exposed to an audience, a new audience member, you better know your trade, your craft, and really know what you're doing to keep them engaged and keep them coming back. So that is a huge upside that I don't think guys getting into this business truly realize how much they can control their destiny from the very beginning. I know in the music business, I'm from Nashville and around the music business quite a bit. It's been a game changer. There are industry leaders who have been on labels that have discarded the labels and launched their own music online, whether it's YouTube or Vivo or whatever it may be. Same with wrestling. You can control your destiny, and if guys want to make a real surge in this business, don't realize that, they're putting themselves, again, behind the 8 ball when they don't have to.
Now, as we start to hit the wind down here, because I know you got a very, very busy weekend coming up, but I have to ask, because you're such a legend in the business, and you've had so many good matches everywhere, do you have a favorite match or maybe a couple matches that you can really, think about when you look back at your career and just really sit back and just smile at?
Not really. I don't ever like to really look in the rearview mirror. But when I am asked that question, I don't really. Obviously, I do remember particular matches, but I more than that, I remember feuds or series of matches back in the early day. Me and Jerry Lawler against the Moondog. It was hardcore before hardcore was called hardcore. They were some brutal matches. That, and then when I went to the WWF series of matches with Scott Hall and Shawn Michaels and tag matches with, me and Shawn against Scott and Kevin, and Road Dogg came onto the scene, and then as you move through, the WCW, winning the world title, and Flair and Sting and Luger and Diamond Dallas Page and Steiner and Goldberg and just that era of it was pretty cool time. And then you get into the TNA days, and the early days are obviously some of my fondest memories. The AJ Styles, and taking a kid from North Georgia and giving him an opportunity, and he took the ball and ran with it. His talent to this day, speaks for itself. And then, at a very late stage in my career, I had a series of matches against Kurt Angle that I'm very proud of. That were some of the best of my career, and at the stage of my career, I know that I was pushed to a limit and pushed through it. So the series of matches is what I like to look back on.
Definitely a storied career, which was unbelievable. But you just mentioned AJ Styles, so I got to ask, with the rumors of him going to WWE and New Japan kind of losing him, Nakamura, and supposedly several members of the Bullet Club, what is your relationship currently with New Japan? Are you still in the Bullet Club, and will you guys do a deal with Global Force?
With the shorter answer is great relationship with New Japan. I'm called the Office of Bullet Club during that run, which was totally unexpected. It more or less somewhat came out of the blue. I was honored to be in that. I wore a suit to the building, and the guys joked that Bullet Club guys shouldn't wear a suit. Well, I said, well, I'm a promoter as well as an office Bullet Club member. But no, we're excited. New Japan, just an incredibly well-run organization with obviously fantastic talent. It goes without saying that I went on record when I got back from Wrestle Kingdom 9 and couldn't say enough good things about the aura that Nakamura carries to the ring. He's dynamic. He is such a unique talent, and it's definitely no secret my thoughts on AJ Styles, and I couldn't be more happy for the guy for him to get this opportunity.
It's so awesome. Two amazing performers, and of course, we remember AJ Styles all the way back from his early days of TNA Wrestling. And Jeff, we thank you so much for coming on with us. It's been amazing. We didn't even get a chance to hit one of our favorite topics, and that's Double J MMA, but that we'll save for another day and another time. But we want to remind everybody, Global Force Wrestling is coming to the Mid-Hudson Civic Center Friday, January 22nd, and Saturday, January 23rd at the Rahway Rec Center in Rahway, New Jersey. Visit globalforcewrestling.com for more information on that. And Mr. Jarrett, if you don't mind, please tell the fans where they can find everything in the world of the King of the Mountain, Jeff Jarrett.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, when you ever do mention the Double J MMA character, always you need to throw in the byline is that I retired undefeated. So you can't really say one without the other. But no, you can find me on Twitter at Real Jeff Jarrett, real simple, at Real Jeff Jarrett. And then all of our social media platforms are at GFW Wrestling. It's at GFW Wrestling, and then our website, globalforcewrestling.com. Guys, I appreciate you having me on today. Always a good time here on the two-man trip.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. All the best with the shows. Really hope nothing but, just prosperous and an amazing time. But thank you so much. We'd love to talk.